dining room was filled with the scent of roast chicken and garlic mashed potatoes, creating a warm, comfortable atmosphere. However, beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. I could feel it in my bones as I sat across from my brother, his smug grin revealing his satisfaction with the attention our parents were showering on him. My mother had just declared him the next star athlete of Cedar Grove, while I sat there, swallowing down the resentment that was bubbling up inside me. You should see him play, he has such a natural talent, my mother beamed, her eyes sparkling. The pride in her voice cut deep like a knife sliding through the layers of my long-held resentment. He's going to be the best in his class, mark my words. I forced a smile while my heart raced in disbelief. Why did she never speak like that about me? Thanks, Mom, my brother said, leaning back in his chair with an exaggerated confidence, but I couldn't have done it without my biggest fan. I clenched my fists under the table, feeling the sharp edge of the wooden surface digging into my palms. My brother turned to me, his expression shifting to one of mockery. What about you? Have you, found anything you're good at yet? My voice caught in my throat, both from frustration and the need to retaliate. Instead, I took a deep breath, looking over at my father, who had been quietly observing the exchange. You could always try out for the school play, Isabella, he said, his tone lacking the enthusiasm that my brother's achievements had garnered. I felt my face go pale. His suggestion made it seem like my life was just a series of failed attempts and absent triumphs. I appreciate that, Dad, but sports aren't really my thing. The truth was, I no longer wanted another suggestion to pursue a path that was clearly not for me, a path overshadowed by my brother's glory. The tension in the room was palpable. I could sense my mother's eagerness to steer the conversation back toward my brother's accomplishments. Let's not forget he's also the captain of the soccer team now. My brother puffed out his chest, clearly reveling in the moment. It's going to be a great season. Mom, you'll come to the games, right? My mother nodded vigorously, her attention fully captured. Absolutely, you're going to score the most goals, I can feel it. The adoration in her voice only served to deepen the chasm between us. I just wanted to scream. Did they not see how unfair this was? As the conversation continued to revolve around my brother, I felt invisible, the resentment gnawing at me like a hungry wolf. I looked down at my plate, noticing how my fork began to tremble in my hand. Why was it always about him? I had spent years working hard, but the praise never felt mine. All I seemed to get was silence or the occasional passing compliment. You should see how hard he works in practice, too, my father said, nodding approvingly. Dedication is key. For a fleeting moment, I thought about bringing up my recent art exhibition. I had poured my soul into it, but the words tangled in my throat. What would be the point? I was tired of being overshadowed, tired of feeling like the backup plan. Well, I guess some people just have it easier, I muttered under my breath, but my brother caught it. What did you say? His eyes flashed with curiosity, wanting a reason to humiliate me. I forced myself to maintain eye contact, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. I just meant that some games are kind of rigged for some people, I said with more confidence than I felt. My brother leaned in closer, the teasing glimmer in his eyes shining brighter. Are you saying I only get attention because I am a natural athlete? What about your art, huh? The way he emphasized the word art made it sound as if it was some sort of joke in his eyes. Don't belittle my work, I shot back, surprised by the fire in my own words. I put in effort, and it deserves recognition. The chatter around the table faded as my family turned to watch us, the tension thickening like a cloud ready to burst. Effort isn't everything, Isabella. You have to have talent too, my brother replied with a dismissive wave of his hand. I felt my heart racing, a mix of anger and the weight of years of jealousy crashing down on me. I had heard those words from my parents too many times. It echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. Why don't you just accept the fact that you aren't the favorite? He added, a smirk creeping across his face. My fingers curled tightly around my fork, the metal pressing painfully into my skin. Maybe if you spent a little less time bragging about yourself, you would see how painful this is for me. Oh, come on, get over it. You know the world doesn't revolve around you, he shot back, his voice dripping with a sense of superiority. Maybe I should just stop showing up entirely. You all seem fine with ignoring me anyway. My voice cracked, exposing my vulnerability, the pain bubbling beneath my bravado. You're being dramatic, Isabella, my mother chimed in, her tone dismissive. If you really cared about your work, you would be more assertive about it. My father quietly nodded, his approval hanging like a heavy weight between us. My brother was grinning, enjoying the satisfaction of drawing me into another attack. See, even Mom thinks you're a drama queen. It felt like an emotional stab. Tears threatened to emerge, blurring my vision just as the tension peaked, holding the room together in a fragile thread. Maybe I just won't come to your games either then. I shouted before standing up abruptly. The chair scraped harshly against the wooden floor, a sound that echoed the chaos in my mind. I turned toward the door, wanting nothing more than to escape this suffocating atmosphere. A part of me wanted to slam the door behind me to make a statement, but another part hesitated at the brink of the hallway. Isabella, my mother called out, but I was already halfway out, the heavy door barely closing behind me before I heard my brother's taunt trailing behind. Don't go crying to your art teacher? The mocking laughter rang in my ears even as I pushed through the door, stepping into the cool air outside. I leaned against the porch railing, trying to gulp down the anger rising within me, realizing that this was just the beginning. I felt a spark of rebellion ignite within. I had been silent for too long, and something had to change. That family bond was fractured. I could feel the revenge swirling in me, a plan forming as the evening light dimmed. The smell of burnt casserole wafted through the air as I stood in the kitchen, staring at the smoking oven. My mother was at the sink, her back turned to me, scrubbing pots with a fervor that echoed her frustration. I could feel the tension curled around us like the steam rising from the overcooked meal. It felt stifling, and I had to take a deep breath to push through the weight of it. I knew what was coming. We had all been walking on eggshells lately. The accident, the inheritance, the conversations behind closed doors, everything felt like a ticking time bomb. Isabella, can you grab the baking soda from under the sink? My mother called, her voice steady but tired. It was that voice that made me feel small and insignificant, as if my entire existence had become defined by my ability to clean up messes. I forced myself to nod, feeling the knot in my stomach tight. Sure, mother, I replied, trying to hide the irritation creeping into my tone. I rummaged through the clutter under the sink, my fingers brushing against cleaning supplies and old rags, until I found the small box of baking soda. I pulled it out, feeling the gritty texture between my fingers, and made my way back to the oven. As I sprinkled the powder over the bubbling mess, my brother burst into the kitchen, a whirlwind of energy that contrasted sharply with the gloom in the room. His carefree laugh filled the space, brightening it for a fleeting moment. Guess what? I just talked to her, he exclaimed, the excitement bubbling in his voice. She still wants to meet up this weekend. Who? I asked, barely looking up from the oven. My heart sank. I already knew the answer, but I felt compelled to ask. Your friend from college, the one you wanted to introduce to the family, he said, leaning against the counter with that proud grin of his. I told her to come for dinner, and I think it will be awesome. Just think about how much fun we will have. My heart felt like it was constricting in my chest. The thought of my friend sitting in the same room as my family, knowing how disarrayed things were, made me uneasy. But before I could respond, my father strode into the kitchen, his presence demanding immediate attention. What is going on in here? He asked, his voice booming. It smells like a burned tire. He glanced at my brother, and there it was again, that look of favoritism that sliced through the space between us. My brother, the prodigal son who could do no wrong. Just a little kitchen disaster, father, I said, my voice steady despite the resentment brewing inside me. Nothing we can't handle. My father turned to me, his brows knitted with disapproval. I expect better from you, Isabella, he said, as if my very worth hinged on my culinary skills. You need to learn to manage the kitchen if you ever want to have a family of your own. Do you understand? I blinked, fighting the sting of tears that threatened to fall. I understand, father, I replied, forcing the words through a throat that felt like it was closing up. I watched as my brother leaned against the counter, amusement dancing in his eyes as he stifled a laugh, the favoritism glaring in the way my father beamed back at him. Why don't you help your sister for once? My father demanded, gesturing toward my brother. And if you're going to bring a friend over, make sure she understands how our family works. There was an edge in his voice that set my teeth on edge. I could feel the tension thickening around us, stinging against my skin. Relax, I will have her whipped into shape in no time, my brother replied with that signature cockiness, almost mocking the request. The heat of anger surged through me as I fought to keep my composure. I can handle it. The words came out sharper than I intended, and I felt my chest tighten at the sudden focused attention directed my way. Handle what, Isabella? My father snapped, clearly annoyed. Your friend is not family. You should choose wisely who you let into our lives. You can't just let anyone waltz in and think they belong. Right, because you know so much about belonging. I barked back, feeling the weight of my words hitting all the wrong notes. The atmosphere of our quiet kitchen vibrated with mounting conflict, and I could see my mother freeze at the sink, slightly shaking her head. I don't know what you are talking about, my father responded, incredulous. His voice was low, yet it thundered through the room. You are barely part of this family yourself with how you distance yourself from us lately, always off in your own world. And at that moment, I snapped. You chose him over me. The words exploded from my mouth, raw and unfiltered, exposing the hidden wound that festered inside me. My brother's face went pale, while my father's brow furrowed in confusion. The air around us grew heavy, almost electrified with unspoken truths. Isabella, that's enough, my mother interjected, her voice straining against its own fragility. But I was already spiraling, propelled by years of feeling overlooked, overrun, and dismissed. I only got one letter, father. You cut me off when you decided to favor him for the inheritance. The accusation hung in the air like a dark cloud, and I felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Enough, you don't know anything about what you're talking about, my father shouted, his face flushing with anger. I had never seen him like this before, so raw and unfiltered. Then tell me, explain how you get to choose who's valuable in this family. My voice cracked, the defiance carrying a mix of pain and fury. I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through me as I stood my ground, fury igniting a fire I had long contained. Isabella, please? My mother started, her hands shaking at the sink, but I couldn't look at her. Not now. The shame clawed at my insides. I'm done pretending? I spat. My heart raced, the tension around us palpable as I realized that my words were like seeds planted deep in the cracks of our family lie. My mother's face went pale, my brother stood frozen in disbelief, and my father's frown deepened. What does that even mean? He asked, confusion etching itself across his features. It means you all better strap in for what's coming next, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. And with that, I dashed past them out of the kitchen, the echoes of my unyielding determination following me like a looming shadow. My father shouted behind me, but I could barely hear his words over the thumping of my heart. I felt alive for the first time, cutting through the tension like a spark through a dark room, ready to uncover the truth and set my own course. The slammed door echoed behind me as I stormed out, leaving them in stunned silence, my heart racing with an intoxicating mix of fear and thrill. I wasn't just going to take it anymore. I would rise above this, and the consequences would be fierce. Scene 3. The scent of burnt garlic clung to the air as I stepped into the kitchen, the fluorescent lights glaring down like the judgmental eyes of family members I had begun to dread. My sister stood by the stove, stirring a pot of spaghetti, her face set in concentration. I could almost hear the cheerful chime of her laughter in the past, but today it felt like a distant echo from another universe. What do you want? She asked without looking up. I flinched at her icy tone. I thought we could talk, I said, shifting my weight from one foot to the other, feeling small. Just an ordinary sister trying to connect, but no, that was not how it felt anymore. Everything seemed so tense between us, like the moment right before a storm. Talk, about what? How you haven't spoken to us in days? My sister's eyes finally lifted from the bubbling pot, narrowing with contempt. Or how you chose them over us. The bitterness in her voice cut through me, igniting a familiar anger that threatened to boil over. I did not choose anyone over you, I protested, my voice kicked up a notch. I clenched my fists, trying to control the surge of emotions swirling inside me like a tempest. I was just trying to understand Dad's decision. You know how he gets about family? You mean how he favored you? You were always the daddy's girl. She scoffed, turning back to her task, her shoulder brushing the counter with defiance. The heat radiating from the stove matched the simmering outrage in my chest. You think he cares about all of us? There are only three things he cares about: his reputation, his money, and himself. Her words struck me like a slap. I had always been my father's favorite, but it felt different now, twisted by decisions that felt unfair. My chest tightened, and a lump formed in my throat. That's not true, I managed, but the conviction in my voice wavered. Isn't it? Just look at how he treated you during the inheritance reading. My sister's tone dripped with mockery. You were the golden child, and now look at us, cut out of everything while you get your little share of Dad's treasure. Her words hung in the air, heavy and thick, and my heart raced. It's not like I asked for it, I shot back, frustration spilling from my mouth. I never wanted to be in the middle of this. It's all just a mess. The vivid memories of the reading washed over me. My father, seated at the head of the table, casting glances of pride my way, while my other family members shifted uncomfortably. The way my brother's face had gone pale, while our father bragged about the fortune left to me, felt like a knife twisting in my belly. Perhaps if you weren't so deep in his good graces, you'd see the truth. My sister turned the burner down, letting the steam billow up beside her, and when she faced me, her expression was stone cold. He never loved us enough, not really. If he did, you would have noticed how we were all laughed at, how his business decisions came before family. But no, you chose them over me, your own flesh and blood. I felt my chest tightening further, constricting until it was hard to breathe. This isn't just about you and me, I said, my voice shaking with confusion. It's about Dad's choices. What he does affects us, everyone. I wanted to scream, to rage against the walls that felt like they were closing in, to shake her and make her understand how trapped I felt. Make us? Don't act like you care, she sneered. There was something sickeningly satisfied in her glare, as if she had just revealed some filthy secret, something I had buried deep within myself. You never bothered to realize that all he ever wanted was a puppet in the family, one obedient enough to carry on his legacy. To him, we're just pawns. Tears swelled in my eyes, not from her harsh words, but from the realization that maybe she was right. Could I really be a pawn in this game my father was playing? The family dynamic twisted like a pretzel in my mind, and for a moment, I felt utterly lost. The heat of the kitchen now mirrored the heat of betrayal seeping through my veins. It's not fair, I murmured, barely audible. I need to find my way out. She stepped closer, her face inches from mine as her eyes glinted with a fierce, calculating light. Then fight for it, sister. If you think you're on top of your little mountain, try watching it crumble when Dad next decides to scream at you for breathing wrong. You think you're safe? You're not, remember that. Her voice dropped to a whisper, thick with menace, and I swallowed hard. Are you threatening me? I whispered, suddenly feeling small again, just a child fumbling in the dark. My sister had unleashed something I didn't know how to confront. No threats, just a reminder, she said, backing away and leaning against the counter, arms crossed defiantly. The poised indifference she exuded was terrifying. You could be next on the chopping block, and you would be wise to remember who helped you on your way. Think about that. Before I could respond, the door swung open so hard it rattled the walls. My mother walked in, her face drawn tight, as if fear had taken its toll on her spirit. What is going on in here? She demanded, her voice laced with authority that seemed to reestablish the usual order, even if the tension crackled like an electrical storm between us. Nothing, my sister said, but it was a blatant lie. I could hear the underlying resentment swelling between us like a wound that refused to heal, but my mother was not fooled. Lifting an eyebrow, she stepped further into the kitchen, her hands on her hips. I can feel it in the air. You two are at it again. Maybe it's time she hears the truth, my sister shot back, her gaze darting to me before returning to our mother like a match flicking to flame. Mom, my voice rose in protest, desperate to halt any more betrayals from spilling out. But my mother's face twisted in confusion as the battle lines formed, and in that moment I knew I had to prepare for a confrontation I never wanted. You will both be civil about this, my mother commanded, her eyes flaring with frustration. We are still a family, but were we? The query echoed in my mind, sharp and unrelenting, the truth lurking just beneath the surface. The air grew thick with a sense of reckoning. I felt it, a boiling determination igniting within me. I was going to uncover the secrets buried within this family, and I could no longer shy away from the fight ahead, even if it meant tearing us apart even further. As my heart raced with tumultuous emotions, I turned sharply towards the exit, my breath quickening with the weight of impending confrontation. I slammed the door behind me, leaving two shocked faces in my wake. I stood outside, staring into the fading light, my mind racing with what might be coming next. Something had to change. And deep down, I felt the dragon of revenge stirring, waiting for its moment to strike. I stood at the door of the family home, heart pounding like a drum, and listened to the muffled sounds of my family inside. The clinking of silverware against plates, the soft laughter that always seemed to float in the air during family dinners. It was almost a comfort, that sound, until I remembered why I was here. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to step inside. The warm scent of roasted chicken and baked potatoes washed over me, but it did little to settle the storm brewing in my chest. I could feel the tension coiling in my stomach, tight and anxious. My mother's voice carried over the clamor, and I glanced into the dining room just in time to see her placing yet another lavish dish on the table. Her smile never reached her eyes, the smile I used to admire, the smile I had come to dread. Sister, there you are. My brother exclaimed, his tone too cheerful, almost mocking. I located him at the far end of the table, a plate piled high with all the things I had loved eating as a child. The way he looked at me made my skin crawl. There was a darkness behind those light-hearted words. My heart sank as I realized he was clearly enjoying this facade, enjoying my discomfort. We were just talking about you? Oh, were you? I shot back, trying to muster as much confidence as I could manage. Or were you laughing at my expense again? The way my brother's grin faltered told me I struck a nerve. For a moment, I felt a little victorious, like maybe I could still claim some power in this family. We would never, my mother interjected, dropping the serving spoon onto the table with a loud clang that silenced the raucous voices. The air grew heavy with that familiar tension. We don't tease in this house, do we? Her eyes darted toward my brother, and he quickly straightened his back, looking far too innocent. I clenched my fists at my sides, my nails digging into my palms. Maybe if you all actually cared to listen to me, I said, my voice a mixture of hurt and determination, you wouldn't have to pretend. Every word felt like a weight lifting off my chest, even as it sent shockwaves through the family dynamic. My sister, eerily quiet until now, shifted in her seat, her brow furrowing as though she was processing something. What do you mean, Isabella? Her tone was calculated, almost accusatory. Mother always makes sure we all have what we need. If you wanted something else, you could have spoken up. A weak attempt at manipulation, painting me as the ungrateful child exploited too much by family kindness. Spoken up? I froze, my chest tightening. I have been speaking up for years. But nobody listened, did they? You all just chose to ignore me. The room seemed to shrink around me. The incredulity in her eyes was infuriating. And now you have cut me off completely. It is so unfair. my mother sighed, but the gesture felt more like a dismissal than a sign of understanding. Isabella, we can discuss this calmly. Family dinners are for enjoying each other's company, not airing grievances. Her authority was clear, a wall built to protect the fragile harmony she seemed desperate to maintain. I could feel tears welling up, threatening to spill over. It was like I was reliving every hurtful moment from the past. Memories of being sidelined during family discussions, always somehow on the outskirts of family decisions, always the last to know about matters that seemed to revolve around everyone else. Do you not see? My voice cracked. You chose your favorites. You decided what I should be and relegated me to this shadowy corner. Stop acting like a victim, my brother said, and I watched as he laughed, a cruel mocking that felt like knives driving into me. No one is treating you any differently. You are the one who makes everything a drama. Drama? I whispered, disbelief washing over me. You all need to open your eyes. This isn't drama. This is my life. You want to pretend it does not matter, but it does. This moment here, surrounded by people who are supposed to love me, is all a farce. You act like you are the only one who struggles, my sister sneered. But look at us. We are all trying to navigate life together. You are just too self-absorbed to see it. The words pierced through my defenses, the sting of her betrayal igniting a fire within me I did not know I possessed. I realized then that their manipulation, their dismissal, had been a tactic, a way to mold me into the invisible child they could control so simply. My voice turned ice cold. Maybe that is exactly how you want me to feel, invisible to you all. I will prove you wrong. I stood up, the chair scraping sharply against the wooden floor, breaking the tense lull. Each eye was on me, mouths agape in disbelief. I am not going to sit here and let you put me down any longer. I deserve better, I deserve to be heard. Where do you think you are going? My mother's voice cut through the air like glass breaking, sharp and jagged. We have not finished this conversation. Oh, we absolutely will finish this conversation, I fired back, resolving to escape the suffocating air of deception in this room. But not now. My hands shook as I turned to leave, my heart hammering in my throat, the hot rush of emotion surging through me. Isabella. My sister called after me, desperation clawing at her voice. You are overreacting? I paused at the door, my hand hovering just above the handle. Overreacting? I refuse to accept that I am the one being unreasonable. Cut off from the family, sidelined. What do you call that? I realized as I spoke that I was ready, truly ready, to fight for my place in this family, to unravel the tangled mess they had woven around me. As I stepped outside, the evening air hit my skin, crisp and invigorating, contrasting with the heated struggle inside. I knew I couldn't walk away completely, not with all the secrets left to uncover. Tomorrow would bring another battle, an opportunity for revelation that could change everything. Just as I took my first calming breath, a seed of determination settled deep into my gut. I turned back for one last look at my family through the window, a tableau of shock and confusion. And there it was, the rush of revenge. I could feel it unfurling in me, a startling flicker of hope sanguine in the darkness surrounding our family lineage. I would find my power. They would know my truth. They would not keep me in the shadows any longer. I sat at the dining table, my fingers nervously tracing the wood grain under my hands. The dining room was dimly lit, a single chandelier flickering overhead, casting ominous shadows along the walls. My heart raced in my chest as the tension in the air thickened between my family members. My mother stood at the head of the table, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her eyes darting between my sister and me. My father sat hunched over, his fingers rapping nervously against the table, while my sister had her nose pointed in the air, a smirk tugging at her lips as if she enjoyed the show unfolding before her. I could feel the heat rising up the back of my neck and the taste of anger bitter on my tongue. Today was the day I would confront them about the hidden inheritance, the secret that had played like a cruel joke in my mind for weeks now. I cleared my throat, a movement that felt thunderous in the stillness. I need to talk to you all about what I found, I said, my voice steady despite the quivering of my hands. My sister's smug expression faltered, and the room held its breath. What do you want to talk about? The fact that you're still a disappointment? My sister shot back, her voice dripping with that familiar condescension I had grown to despise. Enough, my mother snapped, her tone sharp like a knife cutting through the air. This isn't the time for your childish games. I felt my stomach flip, her words echoing in my mind like a haunting melody. Why did they always dismiss me? I clenched my fists under the table to fight the wave of emotions threatening to spill over. I found the letter, I said, my voice rising slightly, betraying my resolve. The one hidden in grandfather's desk. A low murmur rippled through the room. My father turned pale, eyes wide as he met my gaze, panic flashing across his features. What letter? The one regarding the inheritance, I replied, injecting the words with a strength I hoped they could hear. Grandfather left shares to me and you didn't tell me. That's ridiculous, my sister scoffed, folding her arms. Grandfather would have never picked you over me. You were always the one left behind. The words felt like daggers, each one piercing through my defenses. My heart hammered in my chest, but I refused to let her see how deeply her words hurt. You don't know everything, do you? I shot back, my voice trembling slightly. I deserve to know what he left just as much as you do. My mother's cheeks reddened, and she shook her head as if trying to dislodge the truth I had just laid bare. You're twisting this, Isabella. You are not favored. You know how your grandfather was. He believed in hard work. But you never let me have a chance to work for it, I exclaimed, my voice rising in defiance. You chose her over me every single time. I felt betrayed. My sister leaned back, eyes dancing with a mix of amusement and indignation. Please, what would you even do with it? You are in over your head as it is. Just accept it, Isabella. You are never going to be enough. The bitterness in her words stung like a bee, but my determination only hardened. I want what I deserve, I said, forcing the words out through gritted teeth. This is about more than just money. It is about respect and acknowledgement. My father suddenly slammed his hands on the table, the noise causing us all to jump. Enough, this is pointless. You need to stop this childish fight. You think this is just about money, but it is so much more. His face was flushed, and I could see him clenching his fists, the muscles in his jaw tightening. Then tell me what it's about. I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. Why is this family always against me? What have I done to deserve being cut off like this? My mother opened her mouth, and I expected her to lash out again, but instead she looked vulnerable, her composure crumbling like old parchment. Isabella, you must understand. Your grandfather had his reasons. You need to trust us. Trust? Trust is something I thought I earned. When did you all decide to keep me in the dark? My voice cracked and I pressed my palms against the table to steady myself. What did I ever do to be pushed aside? My sister leaned closer, a satisfied grin creeping across her face. How does it feel to be the disappointment, Isabella? To realize you will always be second best? Grandfather saw you for what you are, nothing but a shadow of me. Enough, my father shouted again, this time with a fierceness that seemed to take my sister by surprise. You need to stop, both of you. His voice broke, and for a moment he looked lost. I thought I was part of this family, I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper as my heart shattered. I thought you cared. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I blinked them back, refusing to let them fall. Don't pretend you understand our family, my sister mocked, her voice grating on me like fingernails on a chalkboard. You have always been the outsider. All at once, the memories washed over me, being excluded from family outings, hearing them talk about shared memories I was never a part of, that feeling of being constantly judged and scrutinized for every little mistake. I felt like the ghost in my own home, wandering through the halls of a past that never felt like mine. With every word they threw at me, I felt something within me snap. I was tired of being pushed around. I was tired of being favored last. I'll fight for what I deserve. I will not let you dictate my worth anymore, I said, my voice gaining strength as resolve coursed through me. My sister's smirk faltered, and in that moment I saw the fear flicker in her eyes. You don't know what you are asking for, she retorted, though her tone was less confident, more defensive. I know exactly what I am asking for, I replied, feeling more empowered than ever. Keep your secrets, but know that I will uncover everything. I will not let you continue to manipulate our family. With those words still hanging in the air like a challenge, I pushed back my chair, the wood scraping against the floor like a thunderous goodbye. I turned from the table, a wave of adrenaline coursing through me, surging with determination. I will not be invisible anymore. As I stepped out of the dining room, I heard my mother calling my name, but the sound of her voice gradually faded into the background. I slammed the door behind me, the noise echoing through the house, leaving them stunned and silent. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding furiously in my chest. There was no going back now. I could feel the weight of the upcoming battle settling on my shoulders, but for the first time, it felt like a burden I could bear. I was ready to claim what was rightfully mine, even if it meant facing the demons of my past head on. And as I stood in the dim hallway, the darkness enveloping me, I knew I would stop at nothing to uncover the truths they had tried to hide. With newfound resolve, I took my first step into the unknown, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. As I stepped into the dimly lit living room, the tension in the air felt thick enough to cut with a knife. The grandfather clock ticked with an uncanny rhythm, marking the seconds until everything would erupt. The smell of burnt coffee hovered like a ghost around us, a reminder of how my mother had stormed into the kitchen, furious at some trivial mistake, just before our family dinner turned sour. My brother was sitting on the couch, arms crossed defiantly while my sister paced back and forth, wringing her hands. I could sense the storm brewing in my chest, the betrayal bubbling just below the surface. I don't get why you had to tell them, my sister burst out, her voice edged with hysteria. You knew it would ruin everything? I glanced at my brother, who seemed to be avoiding eye contact, a knot twisting tighter in my stomach. I wanted him to say something to take my side, but all I saw was that coldness in his eyes, like he had already chosen his camp. All I said was the truth. I pushed back, my voice trembling as I tried to hold my ground. I can't just pretend everything is fine when it is so unfair. I could feel my mother's eyes boring into me, her disappointment like a weight on my shoulders. She was perched on the kitchen counter, arms crossed, body tense. You don't understand the stakes, do you? She demanded, her voice sharp, gliding through the room like a knife's edge. You think you're being noble, but you're only making things worse? I froze. Her words struck deep, resonating in the pit of my stomach. I was being the odd one out yet again, the one who stood against the tide, the one who refused to join in the facade. Maybe the truth should be told. I shot back, my chest tightening, the fight igniting my senses. If you all want to play nice while everyone else is being hurt, then can I really count myself as family? You're being dramatic, my sister yelled, stopping mid-pace to swing around and face me. Her eyes sparked, filled with frustration. You always do this. You always turn everything into a drama. Maybe that's because you guys refuse to see what's happening right in front of you. I couldn't believe my own voice was raising, the very sound feeling foreign and powerful, like I had transformed into someone else, someone stronger. You're just upset because I told them about the inheritance. It's not my fault you guys thought you could hide that. How can you stand by while? This is not about the inheritance. My mother interrupted, her words like thunder rolling through the room. It is about family. It is about loyalty. You chose them over us. I chose what is right. I shouted back, feeling the heat rush to my face. You all are blind. My heart raced with each tick of the clock, my breath coming fast as I could see my brother squirming slightly on the couch, still refusing to choose a side. My palms turned clammy as I clutched the couch's fabric, feeling the coarse weave dig into my skin. It does not have to be like this. My brother finally spoke up, his tone low and measured, like he was trying to diffuse the thought that had erupted like wildfire. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Nothing, my voice cracked, disbelief mingling with rising anger. You think the way they treated me was nothing? You think canceling family game night for a secret meeting behind my back is nothing? You're overreacting, my sister hissed. You were never supposed to find out. It was meant to be a surprise. A surprise? The bitter taste of betrayal hit my tongue. A surprise for whom? Clearly not for me. Do you even understand how it felt to be left in the dark? I could feel the walls closing in. The house that had once felt warm now felt like a cage. Then why didn't you say something before? Why now? My sister pressed, her brows knitting together. Because I didn't think my own family would choose favoritism over me, I whispered, feeling raw and exposed as if showing everyone my scars. I didn't expect you all to keep secrets. You are my family? Family. Don't talk about family when you just want to burn this all down. My mother's voice was icy, the disappointment cutting, and I could see my sister flinch. If we didn't have this family, what else would any of us even have? My mother's stance had shifted. She stood more upright, her expression hardening. You're torn between that miserable excuse of a group out there and this family? What does that make you? My heart was racing in my chest, and I could feel hot tears welling in my eyes, stinging as I blinked. It makes me someone who finally chooses themselves. I spat, my hands trembling as I fought the urge to break down. Just because you all have made your choices doesn't mean they are right. But they are. They're just keeping the peace that you're tearing apart. My brother chimed in, finally raising his voice. The air felt like it was charged with electricity, and the weight of this family's secrets felt like ghosts wrapping around me, tightening as I spoke. No, they're keeping you all in darkness. You're just afraid to face the truth, afraid of what it means to stand up. I met my mother's fierce gaze, my body shaking, and something shifted in the air. You are all going to mock me for this. You will choose them, I declared, my voice fierce but small. I felt the trembling in my hands again, an urge to pounce and flee all at the same time. You chose them over me. Isabella, don't, my sister yelled, desperation flooding her voice as she stepped toward me, but I was already moving away. I had to leave this room to catch my breath. Stop pretending like you care, I yelled, my heart in my throat. My eyes stung with unshed tears as I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing like thunder, each thud resonating in my bones. I leaned against the wood, breathless, feeling the cold edges of betrayal slice into my heart. Behind me, the silence told me everything, every unresolved fight, every unspoken word, and every fracture in our family tree. As the echoes faded, I was left standing in the hallway, my pulse racing and my mind screaming for clarity. Little did I know that what would unfold next would bring everything crashing down even further.